We're starting out with the point-slope form of a line, and the point-slope form is different than the slope-intercept form because what you need is a point and a slope versus needing the slope and the y-intercept. So in order to get a level 1, we can write the equation given slope and a point. We can write the equation given a graph, or we can write the equation given 2 points. Okay, that's going to get us to level 2. Today we're only going to just do the basic writing of the equations and then writing the equations given a graph. So when we turn to page 2 here, it starts out with the formula. So in the formula, y minus y sub 1 equals m parentheses x minus x sub 1. What you need is a point, which in this case, your point is going to replace the x sub 1, y sub 1, and you need a slope. And slope, of course, in the formula is m. So this is actually a little bit easier than slope-intercept form because we don't have to go and find the y-intercept like we did before. We just have to take what's given and replace those parts into the formula. This is going to be our x sub 1 in the first problem. This is going to be the y sub 1. And slope, of course, is our m. When you write the equation, it always starts with the variable y, the letter y, minus. And then we're going to throw in the y number from the problem, which is 3, equals, throw the slope in there, -2, parentheses, always that's going to stay the letter x and nothing else, minus the x coordinate from the point that we were given. Because this is a negative, if I go minus a -4, that ends up changing to a plus. And that's it. That's my answer. I have written equation in point slope form, and I don't have to do any simplifying or any solving. Okay, let's try that again with a different point and a different slope. That equation stays up there at the top for us. This is going to be our x sub 1, which will go next to the letter x, y sub 1, which will go next to the letter y, always with subtraction. So it will start with the letter y minus. Then my y coordinate is 8. Slope comes next. X minus the x coordinate. Okay, one more time with some negative numbers here. The letter y minus -12, that's going to change that to +12, equals, I'm going to put my slope in here. That's not going to change positive, negative, no matter what happens. It's going to stay negative if it's negative, stay positive if it's positive. And then x minus, and because it's subtraction here, this minus makes this negative minus a negative becomes plus, which is going to be important in our next standard because if you see a plus, the only way that that was a plus is if this number was a negative. So we'll have to keep in mind when we do our next standard, standard 21, when we're trying to graph these equations. Okay, so that's kind of your level 1, that's your basic. Just given the 2 things that you need that are required for the equation, can you write the equation? Okay, the second part of this is, can you do the same thing given a graph? So in the graph, the 2 things that we need are a point and a slope. I actually have 2 points here. I'm going to do this graph. This graph is really hard to read, especially on a video. So I'm going to do number 5. you are already given a point. In fact, you're given 2 points. So you get to pick one. So we're going to pick one of the points. And then you're going to count the slope. So the slope for this one is up 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. The lines are really light, so it's kind of hard to see there. So we're going to count the slope from the graph to see that the slope is up 1 and over 4. And once you pull that information from the graph, you can write the equation just like you did before. Y minus 3 equals, my slope is 1/4, x minus 2. Let's see that one more time, because when you do the actual homework for this section, the homework for the section will not have coordinates listed out like this one did, even though it's super hard to see. So let's go through again just kind of how to find the coordinate and how to find the slope. So there's 2 dots here. I don't like how the picture has the slope drawn in, because that's not actually how we're going to count the slope. I'll count it this way. My slope for this is up 2 and over 1. So we'll count up first, and then this one goes to the right. So up 2, that's positive, over 1. If you wrote 2 over 1, that's not great for your final answer, but it is acceptable. Instead, let's just use the number 2 instead of 2 over 1. The second thing you have to do is you have to pick one of these 2 coordinates to use when we're writing the equation. When you do coordinates, instead of counting between the 2 points, you actually start at 0. And when you start at 0, we're going to tell what the x value is of that coordinate and what the y value is for that coordinate. So the x value comes from the x-axis. So to get to this dot, that is positive 1, 2, 3, comma 1. So my first point has the coordinates 3, comma 1. And you might wonder why we're going over that, but slope is actually the exact opposite of counting the coordinate for a point. So your brain has to do 2 opposite skills within the same question. So just be careful about that. And then just for good measure, let's just find this point. 1, 2, 3, 4 on the x-axis. You go 4 on the x-axis, and then you go 1, 2, 3 on the y-axis. So 4, comma 3. And then it doesn't matter which one you use to create the equation, which again makes 2 different possible answers. Up at the top, there was only one answer you could have, but here for the graph, there's 2 possible answers. If you choose this as your point, 3, comma 1, your answer would be y minus 1 equals my slope of 2, x minus my x number, 3. Or if you chose this as the coordinate you wanted to use for your equation, your equation would be y minus 3 equals, our slope is still 2, and then x minus 4. This is the downfall of point-slope form, is that there's multiple correct equations, versus in point-slope form, there's only one answer. So the homework for this, or the matching problems, is on the actual homework packet. The very first page, 1 through 11, is going to be the homework for this section.